Hi there, and today I'm going to carry on working on my upscaled mini loader. I've got a huge amount of black and yellow and red parts, and today we're going to build 5 more pieces of the set, including the all-important wheels. So last time I worked on the mini loader, I built the first 4 parts, which was the yellow 4x4 plate, the black 2x3 plate, and 2 1x1 bricks, and this is how they turned out. Now, I was building my upscaled version from my original set. However, I have realised since then that because the set was out in 1979, I think my version has had the 2 1x1 round bricks swapped out for newer pieces, because 1x1 round bricks in those days had solid studs on the top. They didn't have the hollow versions. Now, someone in the comments did say to me that this set was out for quite a while, so in later versions it may well have had hollow studs on top. However, I'd prefer mine to look like one of the earlier versions, so the first job we're going to do is swap these out for solid studs. Now, this is a really easy job to do. We're going to use the same just going to use the same 4x4 round brick which we used underneath. So first of all, I just take off the top layer of tiles and 2 layers of plates. We're going to replace that with one of the round bricks. Get the orientation right, Jazz. Like that. And we're going to pop a 2x2 round plate in the middle. And then our 3x3 round tile. And now we've got a solid stud as opposed to an open stud. And by doing the same to the other one, we've got both of those pieces updated. But while I've got these pieces in hand, I also want to talk about an awful lot of comments I got about the bottom of this brick. Now, many people commented that this brick at the bottom was 4x4, and however this gap in between the other studs is bigger than 4x4, so I should be using something which is 5x5 because it shouldn't be the same size as the stud on the top. And you're absolutely right, it shouldn't. It should be slightly bigger. However, 5x5 is too big to fit in this area here. And I did have one commenter really helpfully do the maths for me and say that this gap is actually, when you've upscaled it, 4.485 studs across. Now, 4.485 is closer to 4 than 5. So 4 studs round is actually closer to the size we actually need in here. And in any case, 5 studs round wouldn't fit, and Lego don't make a piece that size, which is only 1 brick high anyway. So we're sticking with 4x4, even though it's slightly too small, as 5x5 wouldn't fit. And I think that already looks better using solid studs on the top as opposed to the open ones. And what I'll do is order 2 round black 1x1 bricks so I can update my original model as well. So like I said, so far we've built the 4x4, the 2x3 and the 2 round bricks. Today we're going to add to that a 2x4 black plate, a 1x2 yellow plate, a 1x2 black plate and 2 sets of wheels. So we're going to start off with the easy things and make those 1x2 plates. But before we start building, a very quick shout out to all my channel members. Thank you so much for your support. It really helps me out and goes towards buying all the parts I need to make these videos. And if you're interested in getting your name on a brick in my videos, either click the join button below or the link in the description below, and you can find out all the details. But let's get building those plates. Now, just like with every other part, we know that this is being scaled up 6 times. So a 1x2 becomes a 6x12. And for the base of that 6x12, I'm going to use 2 6x6 plates. And I'm going to be building this plate in exactly the same way as I built the previous plates in this series for the mini loader and also in the previous series of the space buggy. And if you've missed out on any of those previous videos, I'll put links in the description below so you can have a catch up. So first thing to do is run a row of bricks around underneath these. So I've got a whole load of 1x4s. I'm going to run them all the way around underneath. Like that, and that's a start of our 1x2 plate. And then for a bit of extra strength, we've got a row of plates underneath that. I've got some 1x10s to go on the 2 long sides, and then 2 1x6s to go along the ends. And going up by 6 of single plate needs to be 6 plates thick, and we've now got 1, 2, 3 for the brick, 4 and 5, and our 6th layer is going to be the tiles on top. So to make it all nice and smooth, we've got lots of 2x4 tiles. We're going to run 3 down that side, and then 3 down the other side. And then we're going to pop some 2x2s on the end, and then for where our studs are going to sit, we've got some 2x2 plates, and then lastly another 2x4 tile in the middle. Then we need 2 studs to go on the top. I'm going to make those in exactly the same way as I did on the previous plates for this series. I've got 2 round 4x4 yellow plates. So we're going to join those together. Then we've got a 2x2 round tile in the middle. And we're going to surround those in 2x2 yellow macaroni pieces. But of course we need 2 of these, so in good old UK Blue Peter fashion, here's one I made earlier, and they can go right on top of that plate, like that. And we have our finished 1x2 yellow plate. Now you may recall when I built my 4x4 yellow plate, underneath here, I didn't bother building all these studs and try and take some of this apart. I just left it as regular Lego. And that's because I didn't want to waste money on tiles and extra pieces which would never be seen. And that's the same for this yellow plate. At the moment it does look very pretty, however none of this is going to be seen. It's going to be hidden underneath the 4x4 plate. So at some point these studs are going to come off and these tiles are going to come off, and they'll be transferred onto the 1x2 brick which goes on top. But as I have no use for extra black studs on this build, I'm going to build the black plate as it's going to be in the final version, which means it won't have tiles on the top and it won't have studs on the top. So that extra layer of tiles on top of the yellow plate is going to get replaced with a layer of plates on top of the black plate. So just the same, I'm going to start off with 2 6x6s. I'm going to run a row of 1x4 bricks all the way around the outside underneath. And then for the strength, we're going to add those extra plates, the 1x10s on the front and back, and the 1x6s on the ends. And then, like I said, instead of those tiles on top, we're just going to add some 4x6 plates. 1, 2, 3, and that is our 1x2 black plate. But underneath our mini loader, to join our wheels together, we don't just have a 1x2 plate, we also have a 2x4 plate. So that's the part we're going to build next. Now for these builds, I like to use the parts that I already have as much as possible, which saves me money in buying new parts. And from several pick-a-brick purchases I've made in my local Lego store, I've got lots of these 6x8 and 4x4 black plates. So that's going to be the basis of our 2x4 plate. So flipping our 6x8 plates over, we're going to join the whole thing together with a lot of 4x4s. And with our base, albeit in 3 parts at the moment, we're going to add that layer of bricks around the outside. So we're going to do 1x6s on the end. And then in the middle, we're going to go 8, 6, 8. So we've got a 1x8, 1x6, and a 1x8. And then do the same on this edge, and this end, and 8 at each end, and a 6 in the middle. And there we have our plate. We just need one more layer of plates to go around the bottom. And from another box from a pick-a-brick wall in my local store, I've got about 1 million of these 1x4 black plates. So I'm going to use those to go all the way around the outside, except for one place where I'm going to need 2 1x6s. And then that's our third piece for today finished, and it's onto the wheels. Now those classic 70s and 80s wheels are based around a 2x2 plate, so what we've got are 4 6x6 plates, and on top of them I'm going to add an awful lot of 4x4 plates. So I'm going to do it right at the top, like that, a row in the middle. Because of the joints, this will be held together completely just by itself without the bricks underneath. And then a row at the bottom. And that's our double layer of plates. Now, just like with the other plates, we're going to have to add a layer of bricks underneath. However, we need somewhere for the axle to go. So I've got these 1x4 bricks, and they're going to go one on each side like that. And then we're going to fill in the rest of the gaps with regular 1x4 bricks. And then down the 2 sides, 1x6 and a 1x4. And a 1x6 and a 1x4. And then also, as before, a layer of plates underneath that. Now, because we've got these Technic bricks here and we want them to be nice and sturdy where the wheels go in, I'm putting the 1x10s across the top of them to help sandwich those into place. And then down the sides, we're just putting 1x6s. 2 on there, and then 2 on the other side. And then that is our complete, that would be a 2x2 plate. However, we need to add some wheels to it. Now I had a long trawl through Bricklink and I found a total of 96 different sizes of wheels which Lego make. And this one is definitely the perfect size for what we need. And it makes things all the better that it actually also comes with a red hub. Now for the front of the wheel we need to make that red Lego stud, and for the back it'll hardly get seen, but we do need to just have something to cover it up. So for the back I've got a 6x6 dish piece. I'm going to put a 2x2 round tile, but one of the ones with the hole in the middle of it. And then on the inside we're going to have 2 round plates. They're important because they actually have a cross axle hole in them, so they'll be able to grip hold of the axle that we thread through the middle. And then for the stud on the outside I've got these 2 3x6 round plates, and when you put them together you have a nice square hole in the middle. I'm going to join those together with a round 4x4 plate which also has a hole in the middle, if you can get that lined up correctly, like that. Then to smooth off the edges we're going to use these larger 3x3 macaroni tiles. They're going to go all the way around the edge, like that. And then to build up the stud in the middle we can use that same piece we absolutely love for Lego upscaled studs. I'm going to put that brick in the middle, and then pop a plate in the middle of that, and of course that all important 3x3 round tile. Now just to build up this gap in the middle we're going to add 2 more of those 2x2 round plates, and again like I said they've got the axle hole in the middle so that all 3 layers in there will be gripping hold of the axle, which we can do now. Just pop that in there and you can see that that grips hold perfectly. Now I'm just going to temporarily take out that 1x4 Technic brick with its plate attached to it, because that's what we're going to put the axle through into the wheel. So for some extra strength we're going to use a couple of other Technic bricks, but also some of these Technic stopper pieces which go onto axles. So first of all we're going to put one of those onto the end of the axle like that, and then I'm going to slide on one of these 1x4 bricks. We're going to have another stopper. The more friction we can have to stop it sliding out the better. Then another brick, and then that one we took off the plate like that, and then that's going to click underneath our plate. But now we need to get the wheel on. So first of all the back of the wheel, and that slides on and grips hold with those plates there. Then obviously the wheel itself, so pop that on, and then finally on the front we have our red stud like that. And we've got our wheel, and then lots of Technic bricks to click on underneath our plate. So that Technic brick we took out with the plate on top gets reinstated underneath our upscaled plate. So that's going to click back in there with the new Technic brick in front of it, and then that red stopper spaces these 2 out by 1 brick perfectly, and so that one then clicked into place as well. And then there we've got our basis of our wheel set. Then of course we've got a second wheel to go on the other side, so that should also just click into place. That handy red spacer spacing those bricks out for us, and then we have our completed set of wheels. But what we do need is another set to go with it. So the next thing to do is join together all the black parts which we've made today. And on the original model we had our wheel set, and the 2x4 went on top of the first wheels like that, but it only half went onto the second set, and then that little gap was filled in with the 1x2 plate which we made, and then there we have our completed wheel chassis. And now we need to do exactly the same thing again, only with much bigger parts. So if we get the 1x2, that'd be better. Put that on the back of the first wheel set like that, and then we get our 2x4. Oh, this is so satisfying putting this together like this. The 2x4 like that, and then that will join up to the other wheel set, and hopefully it's going to look a much larger version of this. Join those together like that, and we've got our giant set of wheels and our mini set of wheels. Now if we want to add the 4x4 on top, we do need another extra layer of plates in the middle, and on the original that was the 1x2 at the back like that, and then that all important plate for the scoop in front of it like that, and then the 4x4 sits on top, and then it clears the wheels. So on our upscale version we can do the same. We can add our 1x2 at the back like that. However, we don't have the plate for the scoop yet to go in here. So what we're going to need to do is just add a slight support here for the rest of the 4x4 to go on, just so it can keep it clear of the wheels and we can put it on right now. But before we move on and add that 4x4 plate on top of the wheel set, in case you missed it in an earlier video, this is my prototype for this scoop which goes at the front of the loader. I'm really pleased with the profile of the scoop itself, and I've done a few weight tests and I'm pretty sure that it is going to be able to hold itself up under its own weight. It was one of the things I was concerned about with this being so big and so heavy. I was worried it was just going to sit at the front of the loader but constantly droop down and not be able to hold itself up under its own weight. So with the 1x2 brick at the back, the steering wheel, the hinge plate and the scoop itself, I'm hoping 1, maybe 2 more videos and the whole thing will be complete. So like I said earlier, I have taken the niceties off that 1x2 yellow plate at the back here. So I peeled off the tiles and I've added an extra layer of single yellow plates on top of that, so that's now the correct height. We also need some sort of support at the front, so I've just made a little support out of some 2x6 and some 2x4s. And if we put that 2, 4, 6 just about there, that will be where the front of the 4x4 plate goes. So now hopefully we can fit the entire earlier structure on top of this. So for the first time, all 9 parts so far are coming together as one. So if we put those on the back here, make sure that's in the middle, which it isn't. Move it over one. There we go, that sits there. Squeeze that together at the back. Squeeze it onto that temporary support at the front as well. And we have a fully rolling part of our mini loader. I'll just take it inside so we'll get a better view of it on the kitchen floor. It's not quite enough space in here and you'll get a better look. So now inside on the kitchen floor, I've got all the different parts which I've upscaled over the various videos over the last few months. And then right next door to them, I've got their upscaled versions. So much earlier on in the year, we started off with the space buggy and then the spaceman to go with him. Then we moved on to the workman from the mini loader set. And then we took a little bit of a detour and did some upscaled space babies. And now we've got a nearly complete mini loader. If I give you this nice aerial view, you can really see the size difference between the original pieces and the upscaled parts. And even though building these models this way, by building the parts separately and then putting together, isn't probably the strongest way, this part of the mini loader is pretty sturdy. One thing that I didn't notice on the space buggy is that the size of the upscaled wheels, although it's pretty good, it's not perfect. On the mini loader here, you can see the clearance between the wheel and the 4x4 plate, so that wheel definitely won't hit the plate. However, on the upscaled version, it really shows that the upscaled wheels must be slightly larger than the originals because they only just clear that 4x4 plate. And although it's not quite in the right place, for the first time this gives us a rough idea of what that scoop might look like on the front of the mini loader. So as always, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. If you'd like to support the channel and get your name on a brick at the start of my videos, please click the join button or the link in the description below and that'll tell you all about it. If you've liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up, it really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And of course, please subscribe for more LEGO videos.